Hello and welcome to Lizzie Watches Yaoi, and today I'm talking about After School in the Teacher's Lounge, which is a two-part OVA. Part 1 was released in 1994 and Part 2 was released in 1995. And boy, has this one not dated well. I remember watching it back in the day, but obviously I don't remember just quite how poor quality it looked. Yeah, no. Oh, what to say? Okay, the animation style is dated, but it's the unfluid moment. Like characters just kind of pop into screen and pop back again. There's no fluidity of animation. Yeah, I mean, at least by like 1995, the second OVA, they've improved the animation style. But that first OVA, I was so distracted by how characters just popped in and out and how they got proportions so wrong. And I know Yaoi has some like cliches about proportions, but there's some very long legs, and the yaoi hands, the fact that semi hands are just so big in comparison. But this one is like they had such long necks. I was like, what is these giraffe people? And then really weird chin to forehead ratios that kept changing. And it just if your chin is that long, your head would be bigger. There's not enough hair to cover your face, and you're not very expressionate. And I was so distracted by how bad the animation was and how bad the music was. It had more of that, soft kind of jazzy lounge music, I suppose, since it was meant to be about a teacher's lounge. They never actually spent any time in the teacher's lounge. It was all set just other places. But yeah, that soft jazzy music, mood music, and then interspersed with this weird dripping sound during poignant and romantic scenes. And I'm like, why does this anime sound like they're continuously hanging out in the toilet? Why is it always dripping? Oh goodness. No, wasn't the greatest series. It basically follows the story of Kawase, who's a young teacher. He's a bit confused, a bit naive and innocent, and he's staring out the window at the other teacher from the school, Kazuma. And Kazuma is using the school swimming pool a little bit inappropriately, since it's meant to be for the students, and he comes out of the pool wearing his Speedos, and he's all like, oh, wink, oh, it doesn't matter if the girls are looking, and the female teacher is like, oh, stop being silly, and he's like, oh, no, it's not that bad, I still like you too, and gropes her tit, and I'm just like, oh, you're a bit of a flirty jerk type, but, we know you're going to be the seme of the story, since another one of the yaoi tropes is the seme is always taller than the uke, and the seme will have giant hands. But this one, the proportions were even out. There's some scenes I'll say a bit later signify this with the proportions. The dream giant. Oh god, this was so bad. It was so bad. The bit when Kawase is freaking out over a bug, and the animation is jumping in and out, and they're doing an art class outside, and there's a small flame-breathing turtle running across the lawn, and you're just like, what am I watching? What? This is so random. Why is there all this wasted dead space and soft music and nothingness? And then the bit of animation we get is a small fire-breathing turtle running across the art classroom outside, and then a bug attack. And basically, Kazuma's all like, oh, I like you, Kawase. Would you like to come out for dinner after school? And Kawase's like, cool, yeah, we'll go hang out. And then he's like, oh, I didn't realise this was a date. And Kazuma's all like, oh, yes, it's a date. I like you. I want to be with you. I want us to start a relationship. And Kawase's all like, oh, you kidder. Oh, but never mind. I'm having fun with you anyway. Yeah, sure. This all sounds lovely. And then we have the usual aggressive seme stereotype, and he's always like, oh, I'm coming on to you, I'm going to always be holding you and touching you and forcing you to cuddle me, and my hands are all over you, and you must come to this place with me. I won't take no for an answer, but I might have no, you don't have plans. I now control your life and possess you. He's very aggressive. But Kawase's like, no, I've got to go help out in my aunt's B&B. And Kazuma is like, oh, well, it's the good, stalker. I'm just going to turn up there and go, hey, I've come to, stalk you and hang out and, fondle you in front of your brother and try and kiss you any opportunity I get. And Kawase is like, stop acting silly, and is telling his brother, oh, he's just like that. It's just skinship. That's just how he shows, affection. And his brother's like, I don't think that's normal. I think, actually, he is definitely trying to manipulate you. And he's like, no, of course not. So eventually Kazuma gets annoyed with Kawase's lack of attention and is like, why did you agree to a relationship, to go out with me, to date, if you're not even going to let me kiss you, if you're not going to actually be with me? And he's like, well, I thought you were joking. He's like, I wasn't joking. I truly have feelings for you. I love you. Please, let's be together. And he's like, no, wait a minute. And then he tries to kiss him, and Kawase bites him and runs off. And I'm like, oh goodness, how is this going to go? But then Kazuma chases him, and then they talk to each other, but you don't get any dialogue. You get lots of beautiful music and shots of the sky, walking across a beach, sitting on some fences, and then suddenly going, oh, and then more Kazuma going, oh no, I do love you. I do want to be with you. Let's have a relationship. And he's like, oh, okay, yes, I think actually we shall have a relationship. And it's like, oh, isn't that like lovely? And we are going to be together. And then you hear the brother calling out, and then he's like, oh no, now I'm just going to slap Kazuma and walk off. And that's kind of how the first episode like falls into a conclusion. I'm like, so they are dating? They aren't dating? He did want to kiss him? He does want to be in a relationship? He doesn't want? Like, I'm as confused as Kazuma now, who's just like sitting on the floor with a big handprint on his face because he's just got slapped after the guy who said he didn't want to date him now says, okay, I will date you. And he's like, I don't get what's going on. And this, I mean, it's full of like bizarre like tropes. It even has the like over friendly brothers tropes with Kazuma going, you two are too old to be hugging like brothers. Don't you know that brothers can't get married? And the brother's like, well, two men can't get married, so I'm going to touch my brother as much as I like. And you're like, oh dear, this is so many tropes, so many tropes. And then poor old Kawasawa, who can't like work out what he wants from his like romance relationship with Kazuma, is all having dreams about him, but dreams in which like he's floating around naked, and then like Kazuma turns up at least like twice the size, like a giant version of him, his hands the same size as his chest, possessing him, and he's like, oh, but I think I want this, but I don't think I want this. And I'm like, this is just looking dumb now. And there's more of that toilet dripping water sound going on. And so Kawase goes and has a shower, and another one of the yaoi cliches is the obligatory like shower scene in which man is in shower and we must watch him shower a lot, which I don't mind, but because the animation is so bad and the character designs are so bad and simple, I'm like, this is not really as erotic as it could be when you see a naked Bishonen in a shower. This could be a lot more entertaining. But alas, it's not very much. And then Kazuma's a bit of a d-bag who just like, all the girls just like kind of throw themselves at him. So other guests are like, oh, come and sleep with me. And he's like, no, I can't do that. I'm still going to hug you, but I'm not going to sleep with you. And Kawase's all like, oh, you're flirting with all the girls. And he's like, well, in all honesty, she's the one that jumped on me. And then goes out drinking, and then the underage girls are all like, oh, we're not underaged. And it's like, no, you're underage. It's like, oh, stop acting like teachers. Oh, we are teachers. Ha 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 ha. And the girls are like, oh no, maybe we should stop throwing ourselves at you. This is all so lovely. And it's like, I don't quite know if they're dating yet. I still haven't quite got, it's like, does Kawase actually like Kazuma? Are they, and like, maybe, possibly. I think he does, apart from the slapping. And then the first episode ends with, like, the brother's friend turns up to help out. And he's a proper, like, tiny, tiny hot pants and long hair. And he would be cute if it wasn't for the awful character designs and animation. And Kazuma's like, wow, that boy's cute. I must be friends with him, so I'm going to petrify the poor boy by half crawling on top of him on a sofa and going, you're so cute. And the boy is like calling out for the brother going, help! And then Kawase comes in going, what are you doing? And Kazuma's like, it's only a joke, ha ha ha, just being silly. Young children today can't get a joke. I'm like, I'm not entirely sure if it's a joke when you half crawl on top of a boy going, you're so cute, when your now boyfriend is in the other room and can actually see this. But romance, I guess, beautiful. And then it cuts to episode 2. And episode 2 starts off with this weird greeny animation signifying that I think it's meant to be like this is in the past, and it's like they're having a big breakup scene, and Kawase is going, oh, you're going to get married, and if you get married then we can't continue what we are. It's best to break up now before either of us gets hurt, because we have duties to get married and stuff. And they're like, oh no, but I do love you. And if you keep saying these hurtful things, then I'm going to kill you, and then I'm going to kill myself. And it's like, oh, it's a bit melodramatic and a bit possessive, but Kazuma is a bit mad, and Kawase, I never know where he's coming from, really. And then we get to like the story of how this big conversation went down and the fact that like Kazuma's tricked him to going on a blind date and he feels obliged because it's like the principal set it up and it's the daughter of the principal's best friend. So he starts going on dates with her just to appease like the principal and stuff. But he decides not to tell Kawase about this, and Kawase's all like, why do you keep blowing me off? Why do you keep blowing me off? And then he sees them together at the aquarium. And at first I thought he was having a psychic conversation with a penguin. And then it turns out that as he looks at the penguin, just beyond it, he can see Miho and Kazuma also at the aquarium, and he's been having a voiceover describing all the times that he's been blown off and left behind, and he's now just really, really upset that he can't hang out with Kazuma in his apartment room and, I don't know, drink. Seems to be all they do. They never go to the teacher's lounge. I'm like, I really thought that this would be about two teachers that bang in the teacher's lounge after school because it's naughty. But no, it's about drama, ups and downs and drama. So much drama. And weird things like there's a frog riding a fish with a fishing rod in the aquarium. I'm like, that's so weird. Why is that there? I just don't know. And like the second OVA is pretty simple. It's pretty much Kawase wandering around being all depressed because he thinks Kazuma's with this girl now. And he's all angsting about the whole thing, and he stalks them on a date to see how good they are together. And he's like, oh, Kazuma would be better off without me and with this girl. And then he's crying in the rain by a train crossing, and this awful song comes on in English. It's just like lots of like, and my heart is frozen in the rain, the darkness creeps in, there's a firefly in my soul, and the darkness descends on me as I lie alone at night, thinking, do you love me? Do you not love me? And you're like, wow, you are emoing out. And it turns out that he's decided to commit suicide by walking in front of a train. Yeah, I didn't even know you liked the guy this much. I mean, technically, I'm still not entirely sure that you're dating, even though it's kind of implied that they've been dating for a while after that romantic walk on the beach with the staring and the conversation we didn't get to hear, and then slapping the face and then hugging his brother. And it's just like, it's so confused. But he's like, apparently he's now so hung up on Kazuma and loves him so much that he's willing to commit suicide because of how heartbroken he is. And then out of nowhere, Miho stops him, going, don't do that. You shouldn't throw your life away. I didn't realise how much you loved him. And I was like, oh, okay. And then she like pushes him to the side and kisses him. Well, that's random. And it's never mentioned again, so we don't know why she kisses him. Neither of them bring it up. No one brings it up. It's just something she does to stop him committing suicide, even though she says, I'm going to marry him, and she gets really upset with Kazuma when he's like, I'm not going to marry you. So it would have solved her problems, because she was definitely into Kazuma and wanted to marry him. But alas, no, there isn't. There's just random kissing. So then it goes back to the like apartment, and we go back to the conversation that we had at the beginning about like, oh well, if you're gonna get married, we can't be together, let's break up, let's have a double suicide, I'm gonna murder you, love. No, you can't do that. No, it's better that we go our separate ways. So they have their fight and go their separate ways and don't talk to each other for a bit. And Kazuma finally tells Mio that he's dating someone else, and she's like, oh, is it Kawase? And he's like, yes. How did you know? She goes, I've known all along. Why him? Of all the men and women, why would you want to be with him? And he's like, oh, I just love him. The end. There's no real like anything more to that. And she's like, oh, well, fine, have it your way. I'm wandering off. And then two teachers go back to ignoring each other until eventually Kawase is like, Kazuma, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about what I said. And I'm like, wow, you're such a needy little boy, aren't you? You're just like, where, I can't live without you. Where. I was like, you didn't even seem that into him in the first episode. There was a lot of like forced kissing and forced groping. Another great yaoi trope. Like, the more someone forces themselves on you, the more you like them in return. And then when they go off and do anything, even look at another person, you're so in love with them that you just can't handle it, and you become like the pathetic, love-obsessed, like lovesick puppy following around this other character. And he's like, oh, and Kazuma's like, and rightly so, he's like, no, it was my fault for not telling you more about her and what was going on. And Kawase's like, are you going to marry her? And he's like, no, I told you I'm not getting married. And it's like, it's only you that I want to date. And then it switches to them hanging out in a playground, because that seems the best place for two adult males to hang out when they've just confessed that they still want to be in a relationship. So they go hang out, and Kazuma says how he was just waiting for Kawase to come back to him, and he'll wait. And it'll all be good. And they're like, oh, yay, we can continue to have this, like, relationship because we're so in love. Yes, I love you. And then we'll hug in the stars with the soft music and the panning shots and all the tropes. And yeah, this was not good. Yeah, it's not dated well. It's not particularly sexy. They're not particularly beautiful. It's not even like sweet and romantic. And it's just a bit it's just like it's so wishy-washy. I actually ended up liking Kazuma even though he was a bit of a flirt and a weirdo in the first episode because Kawase was just so needy, and I'm like, dude, just stop stalking him, stop deciding to commit suicide, maybe have a conversation with him, stop pining pathetically. Yeah, no, it didn't age well. It's definitely not one of the best yaois shonen eyes out there. Yeah, you can give this one a miss unless you want to see it for the diabolical animation, which is actually, the first OVA is worth watching for the bad animation and the randomness and this the awful proportions because that's hilarious. And, Ghost Giant in the dreams. And yeah, it's hilarious. But watching it on a serious note and trying to take it away something a little bit more meaningful from it, you're not going to find that in this one, unfortunately. So for now, I'm going to sign out. Bye-byes.